everybody, welcome in. In this video we're going to be talking about the Maybelline Super Stay Multi-Use Foundation Stick. And it wasn't all that long ago that Maybelline re-released their Super Stay Foundation in a full coverage version. And I know many other people are a big fan of that product. I think it has fantastic coverage, really good staying power, and easy to work with texture. So I pretty much had to try this and see if this in its own special way would be a really cool product too. So I have it in the shade Natural Beige. I got this off of Ulta's website. I spent, I think it was $11.99 on this, but I know you could get it like just under $10 if you bought it from Walmart or Target. But yeah, $11.99 on Ulta's site. It comes in 16 shades, which is not really reaching the full spectrum that some newer lines of liquid foundation are kind of reaching for these days. But it seems like Maybelline in their description, they really want to tout this as their first multi-use foundation stick, which is interesting because they do already have a foundation stick that if anybody, wanted their say about it, it could become multi-use, it could conceal, it could be foundation. You could buy a deeper shade and use it to contour with. But I guess since the launch of this stick, maybe they're building on popularity of, cream contouring. And the thought that maybe if they call it multi-use, they could talk a person into getting, one for all over their skin, another shade to contour with, and then you've got multiple purchases. I don't know. In this video, I will be showing you just a talk through like putting the product on and everything, but I need to go through a few more important basics first. So the way the stick is put together, you do have this sponge at the end, and as I will talk about in the demo, I'm not a fan of using this to blend out the foundation stick. This is an actual cream to powder texture on the foundation stick. So I feel like there's a pretty big spectrum out there of what different foundation sticks will do for you. Some will be very like almost greasy, seem to give a very, very dewy, almost hydrated look to the skin, and then you may have tried others or even stick concealers that have more of a tug across the skin. I wouldn't say this tugs across the skin. I think it's doing what they are describing it to do, which they call it cream to matte, but yeah, essentially cream to powder. When you apply it to the skin and then you blend over it with your finger, you feel like, wow, that's blending really easily, but at the same time, that feels kind of dry and it practically feels like powder. So the actual act of blending this in is not too difficult. However, I think your skin type is really going to dictate whether this works well for you or not. If you're very dry skin, I think a cream to powder texture going across it, you would really have to like prep the skin really well beforehand if you're dying to make this work, because cream to powder textures seem to have more of a tendency of kind of sitting on top of the skin, whereas other liquid foundations or maybe other sticks that you've tried work into the skin just a little bit more. So if you're very oily, maybe this concept interests you. Me as an overall normal skin type, I still feel like my skin needs a little extra hydration, maybe a hydrating primer underneath before I start putting this on. But Maybelline, as I said, does already have this Fit Me Shine Free Plus Balance Foundation. What's so interesting is that Shine Free is in the claim. They talk about having this like shine free core or whatever. I don't know if you can even see it in there. But this stick is definitely more creamy. I repurchased this not all that long ago because for some reason I got a wild hair and wanted to try it out again. But it is much more of just like a creamy foundation stick, whereas the Super Stay really makes that cream to powder shift on contact. Personally, I prefer the texture of the Fit Me going across my skin just because I think it looks a little more natural and doesn't look so much like product sitting on top. But once we get into application, I will explain the best way to make this stick work. But yeah, cream to powder. I don't feel like we're seeing a lot of products coming out with that consistency these days. And I don't even mind it so much in like a blush stick or a bronzer stick, but in a foundation, with my skin the way it is, the occasional dry patches, overall not being insanely dewy just naturally, I've really got to watch this and the way it comes off just in terms of the finish. But here's another interesting point about this. Now I have used this some. You can maybe see a little slant to the stick there. I've been using it on and off just periodically over the course of about 3 weeks. I mean, I've used some product, but I haven't used that much. The stick was probably about, yay tall when I got it. And that doesn't look like a lot of product. That is actually just 0.25 ounces there in that stick. And so I started looking around at all my other stick foundations to see what compared. Well, the other Maybelline stick, you're getting 0.32 ounces. And Anastasia foundation stick is going to be 0.32 ounces, just like the other. I still have an e.l.f. foundation stick in my collection, which I loved this formula. I'm not sure if this has ever come back yet to e.l.f.'s line or if they're redoing doing it, but this is 0.49 ounces, without a doubt the biggest one I have. I was surprised to see that the Hourglass Vanish Foundation Stick is 0.25 ounces, just the same amount as the Maybelline Super Stay. And I did actually find one thing that had less product, and it's the Makeup Revolution Fast Base Stick. Here they're giving you 0.21 ounces, and you might not notice it as much just twisting up the stick, because the stick twists up a decently long way, but it's not very wide. So yeah, that's the only one that I could find that was smaller than the Maybelline. And again, the Hourglass was the equal size to this. I was actually just looking here to see if maybe Maybelline was starting to phase out this foundation stick, kind of like in favor of the new Super Stay, but still, for example, on Ulta's website, but it does not come in as many shades. We're talking only like 8 shades for this. I wish they would have had more, because I do think it's a little bit superior formula actually to this Super Stay. But now let's scoot on over into the application and I'll show you how that goes. I have already moisturized, and then I've got a more hydrating primer on. Today I'm wearing Laura Mercier's Hydrating Foundation Primer. Or you could maybe opt for a slightly more nourishing moisturizer. I mean, a lot of this depends on your actual skin type. For me, I am more normal, but I do feel like this foundation tends to go on the dry side. So a really oily skin person might enjoy that a little bit more, but if you are dry at all, I think you've got to take steps to really get your skin prepped big time before this stick. So the way the stick is, you do have this sort of sponge on the end, which I have tried to use. As you can see, I've tried that. But given the dryness, sort of the cream to powder nature of the stick, I feel like this doesn't really do enough to actually blend it in. I think a damp beauty blender is most definitely the way to go. I've tried using my hands and I felt like I rubbed away some of the coverage, and I've also tried using just a foundation brush, and then I thought my finished look came across just a little dry, and I didn't think the blend was as easy that way. So I have this in the shade Natural Beige. While I do think it does some favors to have a shade this color going over my melasma, because it actually conceals them a little bit better, it's probably like a hair dark on my overall skin tone. Can you see that there? But we're gonna work with this, and I'm just going to basically sketch this, sketch my little stick all over the face, and then I'm gonna use a damp sponge. I have been trying this one from Morphe that I told you guys I was gonna play around with. And I'll just begin going over where I've streaked the foundation on and start getting it blended. Now, it's not gonna set like too quick on you. I don't feel like I'm in a rush to blend it from that perspective. But even immediately after, like, I blend in that cheek, I can feel almost a powder-like finish. So it really is making that kind of cream to powder transformation on contact. You also definitely just feel it if you touch the stick with your hands, you know, you would notice that. Coverage-wise, I would call this definitely just a medium. I can see a lot of things still through my skin that I would want to put concealer on. And if they didn't say full coverage on the stick, I'd be like, that's okay, it doesn't have to be full coverage. But when I see that claim, I really am gonna hold a product to it. And I just don't think it's full coverage by any means. Even just my light freckles are gonna show through. It did do a little work on my melasma there, but I would certainly wanna go over that still with some concealer. Overall look of my skin, I think, is very matte. It does not feel tacky in the least. Like, it definitely feels practically like powdered skin almost. It's really not a terrible finished look. Like, as I look up close, and I've used this sponge, or any dampened sponge really will do the job, but I think that's how you get the most natural look. When I just use a brush, I feel like I just see a little more look of product on the skin, and when I use my fingers, like I said, I feel like I rub some of it away and just don't get consistent, even coverage everywhere. This, I think, is kind of a lost cause at the end of this stick. In my opinion, the product needs a little assistance sort of melting in and being made to look, help to look a little more natural, and so a damp sponge does that pretty well. And one other quick note, talking about primers, at the same time that I purchased this stick, I noticed that this Master Blur primer stick was on sale, and this seemed to almost exaggerate the dryness of this stick. Like, just knowing that these are out at the same time and practically seeing them side by side in a lineup on Ulta's website, you might just be prone to using them together. But if you are a normal to dry skin type, I don't necessarily think these go the best together, because this Master Blur stick, I have it in the light medium, like it's just got a little tint of color, but it does not offer any additional hydration to the skin. Like, it can do some decent things around your pores, and I'm gonna work with it, I think, alongside some other foundations. But paired with this one, it can all just start looking a little bit dry and like a bit much kind of building up on the face, just so you know. So here I am backing in with the full face on. So in addition to the foundation stick, I did apply my Neutrogena Skin Clearing Concealer around my little bit of redness that I still have remaining around my nose. I used my Tarte Creaseless Concealer on the under eye area, which I love. I lightly set under my eyes, and that was really the only area I set because I don't feel like this stick really begs for a lot of setting powder. I mean, it literally feels like powder once it's all blended in. So I just used a little bit of my Urban Decay All Nighter, just dabbed that kind of on my under eye area because the Maracuja concealer can use a little. And then today, like the fun color products that I'm wearing the MAC Aaliyah bronzer. I'm wearing this MAC Aaliyah eyeshadow palette. If you're interested in this line, please let me know. I've got on the More Than a Woman lipstick from that collection, topped off with just a little bit of this gloss, which is called Brooklyn Born. That one. But as you guys saw in the demo, I mean, I think I was able to settle in on a method for applying the foundation that worked best for me, made it look its best. I think a lot of people are probably going to find that using a dampened sponge is what really helps that melt into the skin a little better and look a little bit less like it's just sitting on top. It is a very matte foundation. I actually feel like it has an even more mattified look to it than the actual Fit Me shine-free stick. And then here's where we get into staying power, which is, I think, a pretty important claim of this product because Super Stay is in the name, and I have experienced such good staying power and such good coverage, you know, with the liquid. If you're still with me here at this point in the review and you're wondering which one does she like better, it's definitely the liquid foundation. I mean, the coverage is so there with that. I would call that a full coverage foundation. I would say the staying power is really good for me with that product. This struggles a little bit with the staying power. I feel like I see noticeable fading on my skin from the midday point on. And I've noticed this happening consistently. I really do try not to touch my face too much. And you might say, well, maybe you just need to set it more with powder, but I just don't think that's the solution here because it's like a cream to powder finish, and I don't think the look of any more powder is necessary on top of that. And it's not that I'm looking shiny. It's not like oil tends to eat up this foundation as the day rolls on. It's just like a steady fade away from my skin. Checking in on the staying power of this foundation now midday. I don't feel like it looks terrible by any means, and I really don't feel like I'm greasy at all. As I mentioned earlier, that's not something I've noticed this foundation like prompting a lot of oil in my skin or oil is breaking it down or anything, but it's just kind of a fading that seems to happen, and it's kind of odd, and from this point on in the day, I think I'm gonna really see it most. Got my glasses on because my contacts were annoying me a little bit today, but I think you can see maybe what I'm seeing here, a little breakdown in product, just generally speaking, all over the skin. It's not an oiliness issue. It's not my skin is looking out of control shiny, because it's not. It's just a fading of product. I'm not sure how to put it, but this is generally the look that I have toward the end of the day. My under eyes are doing all right. That's, you know, where I have the Maracuja concealer, which I really like, the creaseless concealer. No complaints there, but it's elsewhere on my face where I think just the general fading of the foundation is happening. But then I was paying really close attention last night when I was taking my makeup off with a makeup wipe, and I was like, I wonder how much, you know, foundation is going to even show, because I had felt like so much had worn down as the day went on. There was hardly anything. There was just a trace amount. And I just think it's a situation where this cream to powder texture really does not end up adhering to your skin as well as just like the liquid version of this product does. And plus, I mean, I'm in a shade that's darker than my actual skin tone here. Like, it should show on a makeup wipe when it comes off. But anyway, guys, I'm not really thrilled with this Super Stay foundation. If you've got the liquid already and you love the liquid, don't feel like you gotta race out and try this. I mean, I was just pretty disappointed. It's not turning me into a grease ball, that's the positive, but it's just fading away, and it's not Super Stay. So I hope this review helped you out. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I will see you again real soon. Bye.